So dear brothers and sisters, the Church does not advise anyone on who to vote for, but we do have a set of principles which are derived from our faith in Jesus Christ, which we encourage people to consider when voting. And these principles are the dignity and the worth of every human being whom we believe to be made in the image of God, the fair distribution of wealth, and that the needs of the poor should be given priority. The importance of popular participation in society. That families receive the help and support that they need. The dignity of work and the rights of workers, including just wages, safe working conditions, and proper trade union representation. The principle of solidarity. The importance of supporting those in the community who need our help. And last but not least, the care of God's creation, this beautiful created world in which we live.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Rebecca McGinty. Welcome once again, everybody. The topics of abortion and euthanasia strike a very strong chord within the Catholic Church, as you all know, and we believe that life begins at conception and that every life is very precious. Decriminalising abortion opens the door to transforming an ethical issue into merely a medical procedure. So rather than giving women greater freedom of choice, it can actually place them at higher risk, both medically and psychologically. So allowing abortion to be available on request before the gestation of 20 weeks can reduce the opportunity for adequate counselling and education, and it limits many women's access to other alternatives such as adoption. So the same applies in many ways to the debate surrounding euthanasia. Once again, it's an ethical issue posed to destroy the rights of the vulnerable in our society. Therefore, it has nothing to do with our religious beliefs or being Catholic, but instead it's a question of how the vulnerable, the sick and the ageing in our population are protected by our healthcare system. So in choosing the right to end life, people may be exposed, of course, to coercion, victimisation by family members, or just feel a burden to society. And fundamentally, we believe that euthanasia prevents the natural progression of human nature taking place. So it's our responsibility as accountable members of our community to protect the right to life and safeguard those who aren't able to protect themselves. So therefore, I'd like to pose the question to the candidates this evening. What is your stance on legalising euthanasia and decriminalising abortion?
New Zealand First, as I have said, believes abortion and euthanasia, along with other conscience votes, are deeply personal choices and must not be decided by the 121 MPs in Parliament. It can only be decided through a binding referendum, and that is the whole of New Zealand to make that decision. We cannot just have the MPs of Parliament make such an important choice. This also includes the cannabis and other drug use and prostitution. We believe all religious, ethical, moral, life and death issues are too important to be decided by the politicians of New Zealand.
So firstly, on decriminalising abortion, my view is that I don't see that there's need for it to be decriminalised. There is, in my view, good reason why abortion is in the Crimes Act, and that is because it is about ensuring that any abortions not approved under the Abortion Act are illegal. This is to protect women from backstreet abortions and to provide a system for regulation. That regulation has been in place since the 1970s and continues to work today. In regards to assisted suicide, I have a number of concerns over this piece of legislation. Firstly, elder abuse is a significant issue in New Zealand. We need to be aware of that and we need to take that into consideration. And we need to have a conversation as to whether this will open that up more or not. Secondly, it is an issue of life or death. And we need to ask the question in regards to safeguards, how many lives is too many?
So on the abortion issue, the Green Party will decriminalise abortion and assert the right of women to make decisions regarding their own health and well-being of their family and whānau. Abortion is currently a crime under the Crimes Act and is only legal if 2 consultants agree that pregnancy would seriously harm the woman's mental or physical health, or that the fetus will have a serious disability. The fact that 99% of abortions are approved on mental health grounds and that rape is not grounds for an abortion reveals the dishonesty in the current legal system. We will support law change that allows an individual access to medically assisted dying, provided that, as a minimum, there are a number of safeguards in place. So a few of those are an assessment of an individual by their treating doctor, and a review of this assessment by an independent registered medical practitioner to determine that they are terminally ill, is experiencing enduring physical and psychological suffering, and has made durable and persistent requests for assisted dying.
My personal view is I don't believe there needs to be any change to the law. I mean, I hear women saying, well, you know, there's this issue and this issue, but I think it seems to be more a philosophical, ideological thing. I've never in my time as a clinician ever come across a woman who's had any issue with got mental health issues, has had any issue being able to obtain an abortion if she needs it. One of the key issues, and it's very similar to suicide, is there such a thing as a rational decision to take your own life, or is this a suicide? Because most of the time the people aren't rational when they make decisions, and health professionals doing these assessments are not necessarily looking at that way. They're just looking at basic consent without necessarily looking at rationality of the decision. So I don't actually support that. If there was the bill before Parliament now, I would actually be voting against it.
You elect me, I make this commitment to you. If euthanasia is put before Parliament, I will immediately call a public meeting and actively work with our community to come to a collective decision. My conscience vote on this issue will be the conscience vote of our Pakuranga electorate community. On the issue of abortion, I'm going to be upfront. I am pro-choice. I absolutely believe all people have the right to bodily autonomy, the right to seek health care, and the right to hold their own moral beliefs. I cannot accept any law that compels a woman to go through pregnancy against her will. That is a violation of human rights and a denial of the agency of women. In New Zealand, as Claire has said, the law says it's legal for a woman to terminate her pregnancy under a set of strict conditions. The inclusion of abortion in the Crimes Act amounts to discrimination against women. It also breaches New Zealand's international obligations to protect women from all forms of discrimination against them.
To the candidates tonight is, what will you do to make sure everyone has a decent standard of living, that workers receive decent wages, at least the living wage, that beneficiaries receive enough, and that everyone has a decent, warm, dry and affordable housing? So before I officially pose this question to the candidates, I just wanted to pose it to you all here tonight. About 3 questions. Just a quick show of hands. Hands up if you have personally experienced in your life in this past year a challenging issue in your life to do with low wages, trying to make ends meet in your life with low wages, trying to make your ends meet on a benefit, and having difficulty accessing a warm and dry house. Hands up. Cool, that's fine, yeah, me too. There's about 3 people in the room, that's good. That means there's heaps and heaps of dry, warm houses out there, that's great. Number 2, hands up if you know someone personally in your own life, a friend or a family member, that is struggling with one of these issues today. Cool, there's a bit more, kapai. Not really cool, but the last question is, hands up if you've seen any of these issues, examples of these issues on TV, social media, the news, etc. Exactly. Thank you for your honesty. Candidates, what will you do to make sure everyone has a decent standard of living, that workers receive decent wages, at least the living wage, that beneficiaries receive enough, and that everyone, that's everyone, has decent, warm, dry and affordable housing? Kia ora.
We will set a government target to eliminate homelessness by 2020 and severe poverty by 2025. On cost of living, we will introduce a living wage for all workers, whānau order navigators, 1,000 employment quotas to help all people get into work. We will develop a new category of social housing where families with children can apply for a means-tested rental subsidy to top up their income by covering a proportion of their rent. We want to ensure families are not overspending on rent at the expense of other necessities like food and electricity. We will make a cost of living adjustment to all benefits, building on the increase to benefits we negotiated with the government, the first of its kind in 40 years. We will introduce a universal student allowance, as no student should have to borrow to live. We believe housing is a basic human right and every person deserves a safe and healthy place to live. We put the Housing First initiative on the table. That program has had huge success with getting rough sleepers and homeless whānau transitioned into permanent homes. We are proud that through our advocacy, the National Party plan to invest more in it and roll it out across the country if they win this election.
New Zealand First will do is provide government assistance for first home buyers and offer policies to make housing more affordable. With rents growing faster than wages, which remain stagnant, we also want to provide minimum wages of $20 per hour in the next 3 years, so that the people at the bottom of the wage ladder can survive and carry on with the cost of living, particularly here in Auckland. We also believe that, there should be no GST on food items and no GST on rates, which we feel is, why would you actually have a tax on a tax? So those are what we want to aim for at the moment. The other thing is the elderly. They are the ones that are often left behind. We seem to fund, the young families and the kids, and the elderly seem to be left, and they've worked so hard over the years and do struggle, a lot of them, on what they earn, especially with the rents at the moment, in Auckland. It's very hard for them. So we want more with the Super Gold Card. We want to offer 3 free doctor's visits a year, which we think is really important. Because they really struggle with that. The other thing is electricity and the cost of electricity. We want to offer 10% discount for the Super Gold Card holders.
We have increased benefit levels for the first time in 40 years, provided free GP visits and prescriptions for all under 13s, providing food in school for all children that need it, and we have our Families Incomes Package, which is going to help 1.3 million households and lift 60,000 children out of poverty. Ladies and gentlemen, you can't do this without having a strong economy. That is critical to being able to invest and to change lives. And under Bill English's leadership, we are now seeing more and more investment in our social investment strategy, because it's about caring for those most in need and targeting resource at those who need it most, so you can make a difference in their lives, changing them one by one. On the topic of the minimum wage, we've increased the minimum wage every year since we've come into government, and we will continue to do that. And in fact, we've increased it faster than the rate of inflation to ensure that we can support those earning the minimum wage. But we also need to ensure we have a strong economy which is delivering jobs, and we need to have good education so that people are advancing and getting career advancement in their employment as well.
Our policy is mending the safety net, because no one should live in poverty in New Zealand. Whether they're working or on a benefit, everyone has different life circumstances and everyone is entitled to support as long as they need it. So first off, we'll increase all core benefits by 20%. The current system, if you start working, you lose your benefit and you get taxed. So it's a disincentive for people to work. So people are getting taxed at an effective rate of 70%. That keeps people down and not raising them up. So we would raise the benefit level. We would also increase the value of the working for families, for all families, and we would create a working for families credit of $72 a week. We'd raise the minimum wage immediately to $17.75 and keep raising it until it is 66% of the average wage. We'd introduce a new tops tax rate of 40% for everyone earning over $150,000 and lower the bottom tax rate from 10.5% to 9%. Which is under $14,000. This gives people more money to go and spend things on they need and meet those rising living costs. That is the definition of poverty. So we're trying to tackle it head on.
As I said before, we're immediately increased, after the election, increased the minimum wage up to $16.50. The aim then is the next year to go up to $17.25 and gradually moving towards having a living wage. As well as that, we've got our families package, And I won't go into all the details of that because it's quite complicated. You can go online, you can have a look at families package targets, the people that are most struggling in New Zealand and trying to improve life for them. As part of that also we have funding during winter, the energy payment, the winter energy payment, which is the most expensive time of year for people when they really do struggle. On the issue of housing, well, hopefully you've heard a lot about Labour's policies to make houses more affordable. We're going to be tackling on speculators, and we're going to be basically trying to slow the growth of the housing market down so that people can actually buy their own home. For people that are renting, and there's a lot of people that are actually suffering long-term renting, accepting they're going to have long-term renting. We've just announced today or yesterday about our package to actually make 10 years longer and have greater rights for tenants. We're also obviously got insulation policy and heating policy for tenants as well to improve their houses so they are drier. So I think you agree with me that Labor is definitely committed to tackling these issues, the key issues, the problems in this country of poverty and housing. Thank you.
And the world will be as one. I know you say that we're dreamers, but we're not the only ones. But we're not the only ones. My turn? I hope tonight that we'll be heard for September 23rd.